The large meeting room buzzed with angry voices. Alien beings from across the galaxy sat around a massive table, their strange forms creating shadows under the bright lights. Some had scales, others had feathers, and a few looked like walking plants. But they all shared one thing. They were furious. Catherine Blake sat quietly at the human section of the table. Her brown hair was tied back neatly, and her blue uniform bore the simple Earth symbol. She watched the aliens argue with calm eyes, taking notes on a small tablet. To everyone else, she looked like what humans always looked like in these meetings. Peaceful, patient, and ready to help solve problems. The Zephyrians were screaming at the Corthan Empire representatives again. Their bird-like faces turned red with anger as they flapped their wing arms. The Corthans, who looked like giant lizards, hissed back with equal fury. It was the same fight they had been having for 300 years, and everyone knew it would lead to war soon. "Order! Order!" called the council speaker, a tall being with gray skin and 4 arms. "We must find a solution before this conflict spreads to other systems." Catherine stood up slowly. When she spoke, her voice was soft but clear.
"Perhaps we could arrange a meeting between both sides on neutral ground."
"Humans would be happy to host such talks on one of our stations." The room fell quiet. This was what always happened when humans offered to help. They were known throughout the galaxy as the best peacekeepers. For 200 years they had stopped wars, solved disputes, and kept the peace between species that hated each other. "Yes," said the Zephyrian leader, his anger fading. "Humans are fair. They do not take sides." The Corthan representative nodded in agreement. "We trust human judgment. They have never lied to us." Catherine smiled gently. "We will prepare everything needed for productive talks. Our ship can be at the border zone in 3 days." As the meeting ended, aliens from different species came to thank Catherine. They praised human wisdom and spoke about how lucky the galaxy was to have such peaceful neighbors. Catherine nodded and smiled, making notes about each conversation. Far away, Captain Ryan Walsh stood on the bridge of his ship, the EDF Harmony. The vessel looked peaceful from the outside, with smooth white hull and no visible weapons. The crew moved quietly around their stations, checking systems and updating star charts. They all wore the same calm expression that humans were famous for. "Captain," said his second officer, a young woman named Amy Carter, "we're getting reports of pirate activity in the Outer Rim. Should we investigate?" Ryan looked at the star map floating above his command chair. Red dots marked the locations where ships had gone missing. "No," he said quietly. "Pirates are not our concern unless they threaten peaceful shipping. We are peacekeepers, not hunters." Amy nodded, but she made a note in her personal log. Every human officer kept detailed records of everything they saw and heard. It was called situational awareness training in their manuals, but it went much deeper than that. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Morgan worked late in her laboratory. Samples from dozens of alien species filled her freezers, each one carefully labeled and studied. Her research was officially called Xenobiology for Medical Assistance, and other species often sent her samples to help with their health problems. Tonight, she was studying Zephyrian blood cells under her microscope. The bird-like aliens had asked for help with a new disease that was affecting their colonies. Lisa had already found the cure. A simple antibiotic would work perfectly. But she was more interested in something else she had discovered. The Zephyrian blood had a unique weakness. If exposed to a certain type of radiation, their cells would break down completely within hours. It was fascinating from a scientific view, and Lisa made detailed notes about the discovery. She filed the information under emergency medical procedures and moved on to the next sample. Her computer contained similar files for every known species in the galaxy. Corthan weakness to cold temperatures, hegemony sensitivity to sound frequencies, Vraxian allergic reactions to common Earth plants. All of it was carefully documented and shared with other human research stations. Commander Jake Sullivan walked through the training halls of Luna Academy. Young humans practiced what looked like diplomatic skills: how to stay calm under pressure, how to read alien body language, how to gather information without seeming suspicious. The galaxy saw these graduates as future ambassadors and mediators. "Remember," Jake told his students, "patience is our greatest strength. Watch, listen, and learn. Every conversation teaches us something new about the species we work with. Every mission gives us knowledge that might be useful someday." The students nodded eagerly. They were proud to follow in the footsteps of human peacekeepers who had prevented countless wars. They studied alien cultures, learned alien languages, and prepared to spend their lives helping maintain galactic peace. But if someone looked very carefully at their training, they might notice strange things. The diplomacy students also learned how to move silently through different environments. Their cultural studies included detailed information about alien military structures and government weaknesses. Their language classes taught them not just how to communicate, but how to understand secret codes and hidden meanings. Back in the council chambers, Catherine finished her reports for the day. She had successfully arranged peace talks between 3 different conflicts, provided aid supplies for 2 refugee crises, and mediated a trade dispute that could have led to an embargo war. As she prepared to leave, the Vraxian ambassador approached her. The plant-like being's leaves rustled with gratitude. "Humans are truly blessed by the universe," the Vraxian said in its whisper-soft voice. "Your species brings harmony wherever you go. We are fortunate to have you as friends." Catherine smiled warmly. "Peace benefits everyone. We are simply happy to help." But as she walked to her private quarters, Catherine's smile faded. She opened a secure communication channel and typed a short message. "All systems stable. Subjects remain unaware. Continuing observation protocols." The message was sent to every human ship, station, and colony in the galaxy. Within hours, similar reports would come back from hundreds of locations. Human peacekeepers, diplomats, traders, and researchers would all confirm the same thing. They were in position, they were trusted, and they were ready. The galaxy slept peacefully that night, confident that human wisdom would continue to protect them from war and chaos. They had no idea that their protectors were actually their observers, cataloging every weakness and preparing for a day that might never come, or so they hoped. The colony ship New Hope drifted silently through space, its hull torn open like a broken egg. Inside, 3,000 human families had been living their normal lives just hours before. Now there was only darkness and death. Captain Ryan Walsh received the distress signal while his ship was patrolling near the Centauri trade routes. The automated message was short and terrible. "Under attack by unknown vessels. Hull breached. Life support failing. This is New Hope requesting immediate assistance." But by the time any help could arrive, it was too late. The attackers had been thorough and cruel. They had destroyed the engines first, trapping the colony ship. Then they had taken their time, breaking open each section of the ship and killing everyone inside. Ryan stood on his bridge, looking at the pictures his sensors had taken. The attack pattern was familiar. These weren't random pirates. This was the work of the Hegemony Fleet, a group of killers who traveled from system to system, taking what they wanted and destroying everything else. "Captain," said Amy Carter, her voice tight with controlled anger, "I'm reading Hegemony ship signatures in the debris field. They're not even trying to hide it." Ryan nodded slowly. His crew watched him, waiting for orders. For 200 years, humans had responded to attacks with peaceful methods. They would file complaints with the Galactic Council, request investigations, and ask for justice through proper channels. The galaxy expected nothing different this time. Instead, Ryan opened a secure communication channel that most of his crew had never seen before. His fingers moved quickly across the control panel, sending a coded message that would reach every human ship, station, and outpost in the galaxy. The message was simple: the pack remembers. Within minutes, responses began flooding back. From the outer rim territories to the core worlds, human voices confirmed receipt of the message. But to anyone listening, the responses sounded like routine status reports about trade routes and diplomatic missions. Catherine Blake was still in the council chambers when her personal communicator buzzed softly. She glanced at the message while pretending to read diplomatic notes. Her expression never changed, but something cold and ancient woke up behind her eyes. She stood and approached the council speaker. "I'm afraid Earth has received some disturbing news. Our colony ship New Hope has been destroyed with all hands." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. The council speaker's forearms gestured for calm. "This is terrible news. We will launch a full investigation immediately." Catherine shook her head. "Thank you, but that won't be necessary. Humanity will handle this matter internally." Before anyone could ask what she meant, Catherine gathered her materials and left the chamber. As she walked through the station corridors, her communicator buzzed with updates from human assets across the galaxy. Ships were changing course. Personnel were being reassigned. Resources were being moved. To outside observers, it looked like humanity was preparing for a massive humanitarian effort to help survivors and investigate the attack. The truth was very different. Dr. Lisa Morgan was working late in her laboratory when the message arrived. She read it twice, then walked to a wall panel that looked like a simple storage cabinet, her hand pressed against a hidden scanner, and the wall slid open to reveal a room that officially didn't exist. Inside were weapons and equipment that no other species had ever seen. Chemical compounds designed to affect specific alien biologies, genetic viruses that could target individual species, devices that could disrupt alien nervous systems or cause fatal allergic reactions. Lisa began selecting items from the shelves, packing them into containers marked as medical supplies. Her years of research had given her detailed knowledge of how to kill every alien species in the galaxy. Tonight, that knowledge would finally be put to use. Commander Jake Sullivan was teaching a late evening class when his communicator chimed. He glanced at the message, then looked at his students with new eyes. These weren't just future diplomats anymore. Class dismissed, he said quietly. Report to your assigned ships within the hour. Your graduation exercise begins now. The students looked confused but excited. They thought they were being sent on their first real diplomatic missions. They gathered their belongings and hurried to the transportation pods, eager to begin their careers as peacekeepers. Jake watched them go, then opened another communication channel. Luna Base to all stations. Operation Shepherd is active. Repeat. Operation Shepherd is active. Across the human colonies, people who had been living normal lives suddenly received new orders. Teachers became intelligence officers. Merchants became weapons specialists. Scientists became soldiers. The peaceful facade that humanity had maintained for centuries began to slip away. Captain Ryan's ship left its patrol route and headed for the outer rim. When Council Traffic Control asked about his destination, he reported humanitarian assistance for attack. Survivors. It was technically true. He was going to help the survivors of the New Hope attack by making sure their killers never hurt anyone. Again, similar reports came from dozens of human ships across the galaxy. Medical vessels, research ships, and diplomatic transports all began moving toward seemingly random coordinates. The Council assumed it was a massive search and rescue operation. The Hegemony fleet was celebrating their latest victory in a hidden base inside the Korak asteroid field. They had stolen valuable cargo from the colony ship and sold the humans as slaves to species that didn't ask questions. It had been an easy raid, just like all the others. Captain Vex, the Hegemony leader, was a scarred Korthan who had been raiding ships for 30 years. He stood in his command center, looking at star charts and planning the next attack. Humans were always easy targets because they never fought back properly. Captain, called one of his officers, we're getting strange readings from the edge of the system. Looks like a single ship approaching. Vex laughed, his lizard-like face twisting into a cruel smile. Probably human peacekeepers coming to ask us politely to surrender. Charge weapons and prepare to give them the same treatment we gave their colony ship. But as the human ship came closer, Vex noticed something wrong. This vessel didn't look like the usual human ships with their smooth hulls and obvious peaceful design. This one was darker, more angular, and it moved with purpose that made his scales itch with worry. The ship didn't send a surrender demand or try to open communications. It simply appeared at the edge of the asteroid field and began scanning with sensors that cut through the Hegemony's hiding spots like they weren't even there. Captain, his officer called, voice cracking with fear. They've found our base. They know exactly where we are. Vex stared at the tactical display, watching as the human ship positioned itself perfectly to attack their most vulnerable points. For the first time in 30 years of raiding, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Fear. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's patience had limits. And when those limits were crossed, the consequences would be swift, precise, and absolutely terrifying. Captain Vex had 1 second to realize his mistake before his command ship disappeared. The human vessel didn't fire visible weapons or launch missiles. There was no flash of light or explosion. One moment the Hegemony command ship was there, and the next moment it simply wasn't. Where a massive warship had been floating, there was now only empty space and a few scattered particles. What happened? Screamed Vex's second-in-command from another ship. Where did the Deadly Fang go? Captain Ryan Walsh stood calmly on his bridge, watching the chaos spread through the pirate fleet. His ship, which had looked so peaceful during its years of patrol duty, now revealed its true nature. The smooth white hull had opened to expose weapon systems that no alien species had ever seen before. "Target the command structure first," Ryan said quietly to his weapons officer. "Then the communication ships. Don't let any of them call for help." The next 3 hegemony ships vanished just as quickly as the first. The exotic radiation weapons that humans had developed in secret didn't just destroy their targets, they removed them from existence completely. No wreckage, no survivors, no evidence except empty space. Panic spread through the asteroid field as pirate ships tried to flee. But they quickly discovered that the human vessel wasn't alone. Ships appeared from hyperspace all around the hidden base, cutting off every escape route. Each human ship knew exactly where to position itself, as if they had been planning this attack for years. Because they had been. Amy Carter monitored the communications channels, listening to the pirates' desperate calls. "Captain, they're trying to contact their allies in other systems. Should I jam their signals?" "No need," Ryan replied. "Let them call. Their friends won't be able to help." He was right. Across the galaxy, similar attacks were happening simultaneously. Every major hegemony base, every hidden outpost, every supply depot was being hit at exactly the same time. The pirates who had terrorized space lanes for decades were learning what it meant to be hunted by something deadlier than themselves. On the planet Xerion Prime, Commander Jake Sullivan's graduates were putting their training to use. The planet hosted a hegemony supply base disguised as a legitimate trading post. Local authorities had been bribed to look the other way, while pirates sold stolen goods and bought weapons. Lieutenant Ben Hayes led his team through the shadowy streets of the trading district. To anyone watching, they looked like young human diplomats on their first assignment. Their clothes were simple and neat. Their weapons were small and non-threatening, and they moved with the careful politeness that humans were famous for. But Ben and his team had been trained for something very different than diplomacy. The team split up and entered the trading post from different directions. Ben walked through the front door like a customer, while his teammates found other ways inside. The pirates running the post were used to humans being soft and easy to intimidate. That confidence lasted about 30 seconds. Ben's team moved through the building like shadows, using weapons and techniques that the galaxy had never seen before. Each pirate was eliminated quickly and silently. The humans didn't waste time with threats or demands for surrender. They simply did their job with mechanical efficiency. Within 10 minutes, the supply base was secure. Ben's team had captured several pirates alive for questioning and gathered intelligence about other hegemony operations. Most importantly, they had done it all without alerting the local authorities or causing civilian casualties. This scene was repeated on dozens of worlds across the galaxy. Human diplomats suddenly revealed themselves as something much more dangerous, striking at pirate operations with surgical precision. Dr. Lisa Morgan's biological weapons proved devastatingly effective. On the space station Gamma 7, a hegemony crew had taken over the facility and was using it to process stolen goods. The station's life support system made it easy to distribute Dr. Morgan's special compounds through the air. The pirates died quickly. Their alien biologies unable to cope with toxins designed specifically for their species. To anyone investigating later, it would look like a tragic accident caused by contaminated air filters. The human security team that discovered the bodies was properly shocked and saddened by the loss of life. But the most impressive display of human capability happened in the Veil Nebula, where the hegemony kept their main fleet hidden from Galactic Council patrols. Captain Sarah Martinez arrived with a small squadron of human ships that looked completely outmatched by the massive pirate armada. The hegemony admiral, a vicious Vraxian named Thornbrush, laughed when he saw the approaching humans. His fleet had over 50 ships, including several captured military vessels from various species. The humans had only 5 ships, and they looked like converted civilian transports. "Send a message to the humans," Thornbrush ordered. "Tell them to surrender or we'll give them the same treatment we gave their colony ship." But Sarah didn't respond to the message. Instead, her ship spread out and began broadcasting a signal that seemed like random noise. The pirates ignored it, thinking it was some kind of human distress call. They were wrong. The signal was actually a virus, designed to infect alien computer systems. Dr. Morgan's research hadn't been limited to biology. She had also studied alien technology for decades. The virus spread through the hegemony fleet's communication networks, taking control of ship systems one by one. Within minutes, the pirate ships began turning on each other. Weapon systems activated without orders, targeting their own allies. Navigation computers steered ships into collisions. Life support systems shut down on vessels throughout the fleet. The few pirate ships that managed to avoid the computer virus found themselves facing human weapons that cut through their shields like paper. The humans had been studying alien defensive technology for 2 centuries, learning exactly how to defeat every type of protection the galaxy used. Admiral Thornbrush watched his entire fleet destroy itself in less than an hour. As his own ship's systems began failing, he finally understood the truth about humanity. They weren't the peaceful fools he had always thought they were. They were apex predators who had been playing a game so deep and patient that no one else had even realized it was happening. Back in the Korak asteroid field, Captain Ryan finished his work. The last hegemony ship had been eliminated, and his crew was already gathering intelligence from the wreckage. Every piece of information would be analyzed to find other pirate operations that needed to be removed. "Captain," Amy reported, "we're receiving confirmation from all other strike teams. Operation Shepherd is complete. The hegemony fleet no longer exists." Ryan nodded calmly. "Send a message to Earth Command." Mission accomplished. No human casualties. As his ship prepared to leave the asteroid field, Ryan looked at the empty space where a pirate fleet had been hiding just hours before. The galaxy thought humans were peaceful because they rarely fought wars. But the truth was simpler and more frightening. Humans didn't fight wars because they eliminated threats before wars could start. They had been watching, learning, and preparing for decades. When they finally decided to act, their enemies never had a chance to understand what was happening. The hegemony fleet had made the fatal mistake of attacking human civilians. Now they were gone, removed from existence with the same efficient precision that humans brought to everything they did, and the galaxy was about to learn that their peaceful protectors were actually something much more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen chaos like this before. Representatives from dozens of species shouted at each other in panic, their translator devices struggling to keep up with the flood of angry voices. Emergency reports kept flooding in from across the galaxy, all telling the same impossible story. The hegemony fleet, which had terrorized space for decades, had been completely destroyed in a single day. Ambassador Catherine Blake sat quietly in her chair, reading reports on her tablet while the aliens screamed around her. She looked exactly the same as always, calm, professional, and slightly concerned about the galaxy's problems. But now the other representatives were looking at her with new eyes. "This is impossible," shrieked the Zephyrian delegate, his feathers ruffled with fear. No one could destroy the entire hegemony fleet so quickly. They had over 300 ships. The Corthan representative, a scarred old warrior named General Cross, studied Catherine with suspicious eyes. "The timing is very convenient. Humans lose a colony ship and suddenly their attackers are all dead. How did your species even know where to find them?" Catherine looked up from her tablet with mild surprise. "I'm sorry, General, but I think there's been a misunderstanding. Humanity didn't attack the hegemony fleet." "Then who did?" demanded the Vraxian ambassador, his plant-like form trembling with barely controlled fear. "Unknown forces," Catherine replied simply. "Perhaps the hegemony made enemies of the wrong people. Pirates rarely live long in this galaxy, but the assembled delegates weren't stupid. They had all received the same reports from their intelligence services. Human ships had been spotted at every attack site. Human personnel had been involved in ground operations on multiple worlds. The evidence was overwhelming, even if no one could prove it officially. The council speaker raised his 4 arms for silence. "Ambassador Blake, your species has served as peacekeepers for 2 centuries. Surely you must condemn this violence regardless of who committed it." Catherine set down her tablet and looked around the chamber. When she spoke, her voice was still calm and measured, but there was something new underneath it, something cold and final. "The attack on our colony ship killed 3,000 innocent people, including children. If unknown forces chose to respond to this crime, humanity will not interfere with their justice." The chamber fell silent. For the first time in 200 years, a human representative had refused to call for peace and restraint. The implications were terrifying. General Cross leaned forward in his chair. Are you saying that humanity supports the destruction of the hegemony fleet? I'm saying that actions have consequences, Catherine replied. Perhaps other criminal organizations will remember this lesson. Far from the council chambers, Captain Ryan Walsh was dealing with more direct confrontations. His ship had been ordered to report to Council Space immediately for questioning about the hegemony incident. Instead of complying, he sent a message that shocked the galaxy's leadership. The EDF Harmony respectfully declines to participate in Council investigations. Humanity is withdrawing from all peacekeeping duties effective immediately. The message was broadcast on all diplomatic channels, ensuring that every government in the galaxy received it at the same time. Similar messages came from every human ship, station, and outpost. In a matter of hours, humanity abandoned its role as the galaxy's mediators. Admiral Patricia Cole, commander of the human fleet, addressed the galaxy from Earth's primary communication station. Her message was brief and delivered in the same calm tone that humans always used, but the words sent shockwaves through every alien capital. For 2 centuries, humanity has served as peacekeepers and mediators for the galactic community. This service is now terminated. All human personnel are returning to Earth space. We will no longer participate in alien conflicts or provide assistance in resolving disputes between other species. The reaction was immediate and panicked. Trade routes that had been protected by human patrols suddenly became dangerous. Conflicts that had been prevented by human mediation erupted into open warfare. The galaxy quickly realized how much they had depended on human peacekeepers to maintain order. But the most frightening discovery came when alien intelligence services began analyzing the attack on the hegemony fleet. Dr. Lisa Morgan's research, which had been shared freely with other species for decades, was revealed to be something much more sinister than medical assistance. The Zephyrian Science Council made the announcement that terrified the entire galaxy. Human medical research contained detailed information about the biological weaknesses of every known species. What we thought was scientific cooperation was actually intelligence gathering for biological warfare. Similar revelations came from other species. The Korthans discovered that human cultural exchanges had mapped their military structures in detail. The Vraxians found that human trade missions had identified the exact locations of their most important industrial facilities. Every species realized the same horrifying truth. For 2 centuries, humans had been studying them like laboratory specimens, learning their weaknesses and preparing for war while pretending to be their friends. Commander Jake Sullivan's Academy graduates were already being reassigned throughout the galaxy, but now they operated under new identities. The young humans who had once been welcomed as diplomats and peacekeepers were now feared as potential spies and assassins, but the most shocking revelation came when intercepted communications revealed the true extent of human intelligence networks. Every major alien government, military organization, and corporation had been infiltrated by human agents. People who had worked alongside aliens for years, earning their trust and friendship, were revealed to be part of a vast spy network. The paranoia spread quickly. Alien leaders began arresting anyone who had worked closely with humans. Trade partnerships that had lasted for decades were dissolved overnight. Cultural exchange programs were canceled, and human citizens in alien space found themselves unwelcome. On the planet Centauri Beta, the local governor had worked with human advisors for 15 years. Dr. Kevin Stone had helped design the planet's new medical system, sharing human knowledge to improve alien healthcare. Now the governor realized that Dr. Stone had also mapped every critical facility on the planet and identified the biological weaknesses of the local population. Arrest all humans immediately. The governor ordered his security forces. They are to be treated as enemy spies. But when the security teams reached the human quarter of the city, they found it empty. Dr. Stone and his colleagues had vanished, along with all their equipment and research. It was as if they had never been there at all. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as human colonies and outposts began evacuating. Ships that had never been seen before appeared to transport human personnel back to Earth space. These vessels were clearly military in design, armed with weapons that no alien species recognized. The galaxy finally understood why human territory had always been so well defended for a peaceful species. Those defensive installations weren't just for protection. They were forward bases for a military force that had been preparing for war while everyone else thought they were committed to peace. General Cross called an Emergency meeting of military leaders from across the galaxy. The old Korthan warrior had fought in dozens of conflicts, but he had never faced an enemy like humanity. "They know everything about us," he told the assembled commanders. "Our weapons, our tactics, our weaknesses. They've been studying us for 2 centuries while we trusted them completely." The Vraxian Admiral Mossbark asked the question that everyone was thinking. "What do we do now?" General Cross looked at the tactical displays showing human fleet movements. Ships that had pretended to be peaceful transports were revealing themselves as warships more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. "We pray that they truly are withdrawing," he said quietly, "because if humanity decides to go to war, I'm not sure anyone can stop them." The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about their former peacekeepers. Humans hadn't maintained peace because they were naturally diplomatic. They had maintained peace because everyone else was alive only by human choice, and now that choice was being reconsidered. 6 months after the hegemony fleet's destruction, the galaxy had settled into a new and frightening reality. No major wars had broken out between alien species, but not because of renewed peace talks or diplomatic solutions. The galaxy remained quiet because everyone was terrified of provoking the humans, who were no longer pretending to be harmless. Ambassador Catherine Blake stood on the observation deck of humanity's new embassy, a massive battle station positioned at the very edge of council space. The structure was beautiful in its deadly efficiency, with weapon systems that could destroy entire fleets and shields that no known technology could penetrate. The alien diplomats who came to meet with her now arrived with very different attitudes than before. They no longer saw humans as wise peacekeepers to be consulted. Instead, they approached with the careful respect usually reserved for dangerous predators. Today's visitor was General Cross, the old Korthan warrior who had become the unofficial military leader of the Galactic Defense Coalition. His scaled face showed the exhaustion of someone who had spent months trying to prepare for a war he couldn't understand. "Ambassador," he said formally, taking a seat across from Catherine's desk, "I come to discuss the border incidents." Catherine poured tea from a simple ceramic pot, the same ritual she had used during peaceful negotiations for decades. But now the alien general watched her movements carefully as if the tea might be poisoned. "What incidents would those be, General?" "Zephyrian patrol ships have reported unknown vessels near their outer colonies. Ships that match no known design but use technology similar to human systems." Catherine sipped her tea calmly. "How unfortunate for the Zephyrians. I hope they haven't been threatening peaceful travelers." The general's claws scraped against his chair. "These travelers scan military installations and disappear when approached. The Zephyrians are concerned about espionage. Perhaps they should be more concerned about why someone would want to spy on them," Catherine replied. "Are they planning something that would require such attention?" The conversation continued like this for an hour, with Catherine giving no real answers while making it clear that humanity was watching everything. When General Cross finally left, he looked even more exhausted than when he had arrived. The truth was that human ships were indeed patrolling the borders of alien space, but not as spies. They were guards, making sure that no species got ambitious ideas about attacking Earth colonies or threatening human interests. Captain Ryan Walsh commanded one of these patrol fleets from his new flagship, the EDF Predator. The ship bore no resemblance to the peaceful vessel he had once captained. This was a weapon designed for war, with armor that could withstand anything the galaxy could throw at it, and weapons that made the hegemony fleet's destruction look gentle. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Amy Carter, who now served as his intelligence officer, "we're detecting unusual military buildups in 3 systems. The Korthans are moving ships toward our border, and the Zephyrians are reinforcing their outer defenses." Ryan studied the tactical display showing alien fleet movements. "Are they planning an attack?" "Unlikely," Amy replied. "Intelligence suggests they're trying to create a defensive alliance. They want to be ready if we decide to expand our territory." Ryan nodded thoughtfully. The aliens still didn't understand that humans had no interest in conquering their worlds. Earth had everything it needed, and human colonies were already established in the best systems. But the galaxy's fear was useful for maintaining peace. "Send a routine patrol through those systems," he ordered. "Make sure they know we're watching." The patrol would consist of just 3 human ships, but their presence would be enough to remind the aliens why major conflicts had become impossible. No species wanted to risk provoking humanity's response. Dr. Lisa Morgan had become something of a legend among alien scientists, though not in the way she had originally planned. Her research was now studied carefully by every species' military, as they tried to understand the weapons that had eliminated the hegemony fleet so efficiently. But Dr. Morgan was no longer hiding her true work. Her new laboratory on Earth's moon was openly dedicated to weapons research, developing new ways to neutralize threats to human security. She regularly published papers describing her latest discoveries, not to share knowledge but to remind the galaxy what humanity was capable of. Her latest project involved sonic weapons calibrated to disrupt alien nervous systems. The research was fascinating from a scientific perspective, and absolutely terrifying from a military one. Any species that read her papers would understand that humans could now incapacitate entire populations without firing a single traditional weapon. Commander Jake Sullivan's academy had expanded dramatically, training agents for humanity's new role in the galaxy. The students no longer pretended to be diplomats. They were openly trained as intelligence officers, military specialists, and strategic analysts. But the most significant change was in the academy's recruitment. Young humans who applied weren't just eager to serve as peacekeepers anymore. They had grown up hearing stories about the hegemony fleet's destruction and humanity's true capabilities. They wanted to be part of something powerful and respected. Remember, Jake told his newest class, we are no longer hiding what we are. The galaxy knows that humans are dangerous, and that knowledge keeps the peace better than any treaty ever could. The students nodded eagerly. They studied alien weaknesses not to help their future diplomatic partners, but to be prepared if those partners ever became enemies. The age of pretending was over. The changes weren't limited to military and intelligence operations. Human trade and cultural programs had been completely restructured around the new reality. Where humans had once worked to build trust and cooperation, they now operated from a position of clear superiority. On the trading station Deep Space Nine, Captain Sarah Martinez oversaw commercial operations between human and alien merchants. The station's defenses were openly displayed now, with weapon systems that could destroy any ship that threatened human interests. Alien traders still came to do business with humans, but the relationships had changed completely. Where once there had been partnerships between equals, now there were agreements between the strong and the cautious. Human goods were purchased eagerly, but no one tried to negotiate too aggressively. The most telling change was in how conflicts between other species were resolved. Without human mediators, alien disputes that once would have been settled through negotiation now escalated quickly to the brink of war. But just as quickly, they would de-escalate. When both sides remembered what had happened to the hegemony fleet. The Zephyrian-Corthan border dispute that had dominated council meetings for centuries was finally settled not through compromise, but through mutual fear. Both species agreed to maintain the status quo rather than risk actions that might attract human attention. Better an enemy you know than involvement from humans you don't understand became a common saying in diplomatic circles. The galaxy had learned to police itself through fear of human intervention. It was a harsh kind of peace, but it was effective. Piracy dropped to almost nothing as criminal organizations remembered the hegemony's fate. Trade wars became rare as economic disputes were settled quickly to avoid escalation. Catherine Blake received regular reports from human observers throughout the galaxy, confirming that the new system was working. Species that had warred for centuries were now cooperating to avoid attracting human interest. The peace that humanity had maintained through careful diplomacy was now maintained through careful intimidation. As she read the latest intelligence summaries, Catherine reflected on how much had changed. Humanity had spent 2 centuries building trust and maintaining the illusion that they were just another peaceful species seeking harmony with their neighbors. Now the galaxy knew the truth. Humans weren't peacekeepers by nature. They were apex predators who had chosen to keep the peace because it served their interests. When that peace was broken by attacking human civilians, the response had been swift and absolute. The colony ship New Hope was gone, along with 3,000 innocent lives. But their deaths had taught the galaxy a lesson that would prevent countless future conflicts. Everyone now understood that there were consequences for crossing humanity. It was a darker kind of peace than before, built on fear rather than trust. But it was peace nonetheless, and Catherine knew it would last much longer than any treaty or diplomatic agreement. The galaxy had finally learned what humanity really was, and that knowledge would keep them safe from each other, even if it meant living in the shadow of Earth's patient killers.